The idea that machines can think or can produce value as a human can is a lie, and it's a really harmful lie. And I'm so excited to share this film at the festival because I'm hoping that screenwriters and other filmmakers and producers and all of us can sort of start to, in our own way, produce another narrative.
Welcome to Bitch Talk. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm co-host Ange, aka Captain Party.
2026 brings us into our 13th year of podcasting, and we're proud to be here. Thank you to our followers and longtime listeners for voting us Best of the Bay Best Podcast for 3 years in a row, and to SF Film for adding us to the respected list of Essential SF winners.
If this is your first time listening, where the hell have you been? But better late than never. We're like if the rap group Salt and Peppa met the show Grace and Frankie and had a baby. And if you don't understand what that means, ask Jeeves. And now, on with the show. Clink! Welcome to Sundance 2026. Thank you to our festival sponsor, Standard Deviant Brewing. And in this episode, we're going to bring you two beautiful documentaries. The first one is Joybubbles, and the second one is Ghost in the Machine. All right, Bitch Talkers, in this segment, we are going to talk about the documentary that is in the U.S. documentary competition of Sundance, Joybubbles. And we're joined here with our director. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and introduce us to your film.
Sure. I'm Rachel J. Morrison, and Joybubbles ultimately is about the beauty of human connection, but it's about a boy who figured out that he could hack into the analog telephone system by whistling a magic tone. And that's kind of the little log line, but it's about a lot more than that.
Yeah, I read you're also an archival producer. So was that a part of how you found out about Joybubbles? Can you talk about kind of the journey of Joybubbles, since a lot of people don't know about him?
Yeah, sure. I found his obituary. I read his obituary in the New York Times in 2007. And I was working at art museum libraries at the time. And then that kind of naturally evolved into me becoming an archival producer. Like research is my background. So I read his obituary and I was just like, I didn't know what a phone freak was. I didn't know that people were hacking into the phone system before computers. So that was like a wow moment. And I was just sort of like, how come I've never heard of that? And then the second part of his life, when he becomes Joybubbles, was equally fascinating to me. And I just thought, well, he's got a New York Times obituary. There must be a documentary about him, a book written about him, something. I wanted to learn more about this person. And there wasn't a lot. There was nothing that really like told the whole story of his life, because there are kind of these two halves. But of course, it's one life. It's all related. But there's just sort of bits and pieces on the web, history of tech, human interest story, that kind of stuff. And then thought about it for years, and then I ended up meeting some people who knew him because of my interest in the story, and then that became sort of my entry point into making the documentary.
Well, I definitely thought phone freak was a completely different thing, so thank you for teaching me what it really meant.
Yeah.
I love Joybubbles so much. You definitely fall in love with this person. But he's very eccentric. Yeah. And I just really appreciate that you don't make a caricature of him. You really show the nuance in his personality and what made him so unique and special. Can you talk about walking that fine line when you have someone that is so eccentric?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think, like, you know, as someone who is blind, there's certain ways that people who are blind and disabled are portrayed in the media and portrayed in film. And so it was very important for me to stay away from those stereotypes and also let him tell his own story as much as possible. And because of these tapes that I found of him telling his own life story, you know, I was able to do that in the film. And I think probably about 80 or 90% of the film is him talking. So, you know, we can talk about how I found these tapes, but that was like a huge turning point in the making of the film.
Please talk about
Yes,
it.
Yeah,
that's,
sure.
that's a game changer
yes.
for a documentary
Absolutely.
filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like research is my thing. So, I mean, this is really like every documentary filmmaker's / researcher's dream is to find someone who's like, oh yeah, I have a bunch of tapes in my closet. Yeah. And a lot of people come to me thinking I'm going to just magically make that happen for their movie. And but it happened for this. And so I didn't really know what I was doing or what it was going to be when I started, but I went around and I started interviewing people who knew him. And it was sort of like, like I would meet one person and they would say, oh, this other person knows him. Like it was very like meet one person,
The game of telephone.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay. She gets an Academy Award nomination for stringing that together.
It wasn't with every person. It was degraded.
Right.
The information. But so I met this woman, Cynthia Bend. She's in the film. She's wearing a shirt with a frog, which I loved. She wore that for him because he liked frogs and turtles. But she is an author and she was going to write a book about him. So when I met her, she was like, yeah, I have all these tapes where we hung out. And he just kind of told me his whole life story, which would have been from birth, 1949, to like the early 80s when they were hanging out. And she was like, I don't think I'm going to end up writing this book about him. Here are the tapes. And I mean, that was a huge game changer because he'd passed away. So how was I really going to tell the story? I mean, I guess it was just going to be a bunch of talking head interviews, which looking back on it, that's not very compelling. So yeah, what a gift. And then along the way, I found other people who had recordings of him. Like there are these 2 speeches. So the whole film is basically like a collage of the recordings. But yeah, there's 2 speeches. There's her tapes. He did all these fun lines and someone had recorded all of them. We can talk about those. And then a relative of his found a bunch of cassette tapes that he had sent back and forth with their aunt, sort of like letters, where he would just take a tape recorder around with him and sort of say like, oh, I'm going over here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then she would send it to, he'd send it to her. She would send a tape back to him, presumably. So I got even more audio. It was just the amount of audio that we had to sift through was amazing. But like, there's so much more, that we didn't get to use in the film. But yeah, it just, yeah. It was like
maybe you could turn it into a podcast or something. I don't know.
I want to.
There's a lot
I
of
actually
audio.
really want to. I mean, we did pitch it as a podcast for a little while, but
It could
and
be,
I still think there could be a podcast because there's just so much material. Oh, but what I was going to say is like, I do think there's a difference between watching a movie and hearing his voice and then having headphones on and hearing his voice and how that really would mimic the phone. I'm pitching it to you guys.
Yeah.
Sold.
I already look. I'm here.
I'm here to do it.
The more people that could
Yeah.
learn about Joybubbles and what his message was, the better, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was my question or whatever conversation starter about, you had all this archival audio and footage. And with all of that, you captured his spirit.
Oh, thanks.
Which I was thinking about what song came to mind when I think about him. It's Can't Break, or what is it? Break My Stride. Ain't no break my stride.
Nobody gonna slow me down.
Oh my gosh.
No, I got to keep on moving.
Anyways, that's what I thought about in this movie.
I wish I had incorporated that.
That's for the podcast.
The sequel or the podcast?
Yeah.
That's the theme song for the podcast.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love
We're
that.
derailing. I'm sorry, but nothing was going to break his stride
Totally.
from beginning to the end. I'm
Totally.
going to cry.
Yeah.
But can you talk about that?
Sure.
spirit.
I mean, like, people told him over and over again throughout his life that he could not be independent and do the things that he wanted to do. Like, he talks about, and this is his voice talking about this, like he says his teachers told him, you're never going to be independent. You have to live with your parents for the rest of your life. And then just got that messaging over and over and over again. And without maybe getting too into the weeds of the story, because I want people to see it, but he almost like, he really hacked, like, not just the phone, but like our sort of society, like circumventing everything in order to show I'm independent, I'm a genius, I know everything about the phone, because even the phone company was like, didn't want to hire him.
That's all he wanted.
That's all he wanted from like the minute he found the phone in his house. He was like, he says, I want to be a telephone man forever. He was a telephone man forever, but his dream was to work for the telephone company, and telephone companies just said no. But, then he does, without giving too much away. But, yeah, so...
Yeah.
He found a way to like make everything work against all the odds, which I think is a universal story. Despite being such a sort of specific and eccentric person, I think there's a lot of like universality in his story. Just like love, human connection, just be yourself, be who you are. And if people tell you can't do something, like, excuse my language, but fuck them,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
he just,
No, I think it's such a timely film.
Yeah.
And we've talked about how you had a wealth of audio to use.
Right.
But I want to talk about the visuals that you put over it, because it is very fun. The graphics that you use. I loved seeing old technology. Can you talk about how you came up with the visuals that you were going to put over all of this audio?
Yeah, sure. So in the edit, the first thing we did, which made a lot of sense, was basically a radio edit. Like, we laid out the story of what he was going to say and the interview subjects, and then like the archival was another layer on top of it. I really wanted people, when they were watching, to hear his voice and kind of get into a groove with his voice. So in terms of figuring out what archival would go in, it was like really trying to find archival that was emotional and not like a 1-1 connection. So I was talking to someone yesterday about this. Like, if someone's walking down the street and they're sad, it's not going to be feet walking down the street, like some kind of recreation. It's going to be more like, what do I feel like evokes the emotion of that moment in the film? And so I kind of used a lot of like nature imagery, like rain and clouds and autumn and summer and different things that I feel like, nature's like the most emotional thing around us. Yeah, it was really fun archival producing my own film.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you love doing archival so much. People need you.
Yeah.
Some people just are not.
Yeah,
into
hire
it.
me.
That is a special characteristic. In filmmaking.
I do want to talk a little bit about, and not give too much away too, about the Mr. Rogers section. Like, what did you feel about that when you found out about his journey? And it just, watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this, for me, it made sense. Like, okay, this maybe it's the parent he never had or something, but like, what was your reaction to all of that and that part of his life?
Yeah, I think like John, who I interviewed, who met him at that time when he was getting into Mr. Rogers and listening to the shows, he and I think some of the other librarians really felt like if you're learning how to be a good person, who better to learn that from but Mr. Rogers? And anyone who grew up with Mr. Rogers knows that. I mean, Mr. Rogers was so gentle and so loving. And so to aspire to be like him or to take those messages with you is just like all we could ever hope for anyone.
Yeah. And it parallels with Joybubbles. So, it's so beautiful.
I mean,
Yeah, I think just like something that I'm going to take from this film is that we're just not paying enough attention in every moment. He just really lived in every single moment that he was in. We have such a greater capacity to feel more, to see more, to hear more in every scenario that we're in. So that's something that I'm going to like try to be more conscious of because of your documentary. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, he really was like, we have such a silly term now, but he was like, touch grass. Like, touch grass always. You know,
Roll in
like
it.
he really, he was like, roll in the grass. roll down a hill, be like, just, enjoy the moment. Which, it's funny because being such a big part of the history of tech and hacking, I feel like tech is pulling us apart. And his message was, it's like the pure vision of tech, which is human connection. And he just embraced that. And we can kind of go back and look at that and go, oh, we could actually be using this in a healthy way, but we're not. So I think he reminds us of that. I don't know how we backtrack to that time, but
capitalism, baby. We have a segment on our show. It's called This Bitch. So it's whoever's bringing you joy or anything you want to throw shade on. But who's your This Bitch right now?
It's shine or shade. It can pertain to the film. It can pertain to anything.
Actually, I'm going to give a shout out to tea.
Oh.
To a cup of warm tea. That'll calm you down. You know, you always feel like you want to be like an advertisement, like looking out the window when you have tea, you know? And that's like, you're not in front of your computer.
That's such a Joybubbles answer.
Yeah.
Just like the simplest thing that brings you a lot of joy.
It feels like he would have drank a lot of tea.
Yes.
I don't know.
Oh. Well, thank you so much. Again, we've been speaking with the director of the documentary Joybubbles, Rachel Morrison. This has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This was fun.
I woke up at 2 a.m. and the whole condo, because we've just flown in from London, and my 4 and my 6-year-old are with me, and my mom is staying with us. And so we all woke Grammy up at like 2:30 a.m. They were like, we're hungry. So I did have breakfast then, I guess. But no.
At 2:30.
Did you go back to sleep?
No, I took a sandalwood oil bath, and I, just tried to not rip everyone's heads off,
Yeah.
Oh, Valerie, now there's a whole new layer of questions about like, how are you going to raise your kids in this
this
age?
is I think a really important entry point to this film, because I don't talk about it because it's not something that I feel it is the entire context of how I approach things now, being a mom. And I think it's kind of an easy card to play, or I don't know. I felt like it was, it is the reason I made this film. I was kind of perfectly happy to not be doing content for the algorithm and living my life. And then we're trapped. Yeah, I think that, this is my third Sundance film in competition dealing with technology and society over 14 years. So this isn't like a new thing, but this moment that we're in is actually the culmination of stuff that we've been seeing all along, which is, deregulation, massive consolidation. And when you have deregulation, then you get people who aren't taxed, right? And then you have these huge monopolies that have tons of money that are going to then spend that on developing really stupid stuff like generative AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
We're
right.
gonna start.
Okay.
But I knew we weren't I knew it was just gonna jump right in. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's do a formal introduction.
Fun.
We've already gotten started, but hello, bitch talkers. In this segment, we are going to talk about a documentary that is in the next category of Sundance. It's called Ghost in the Machine. We're about to get hyphy as fuck, but I'm going to let the director introduce herself and introduce you to her film.
My name is Valerie Veach, and I'm the director of Ghost in the Machine, which is a feature-length documentary tracing the origins of artificial intelligence to strange places that I didn't really see coming when I started the project, and then also exploring the development of the technology through to the present day and examining the broader infrastructural and political frameworks in which this technology is now deployed non-consensually across every digital experience.
Yeah. I'm going to sigh.
Take a deep breath.
Sorry. No, this is going to be totally professional. So we just said off mic, you told us off mic, you've been kind of following all of this technology for about 14 years. So I want to know first, like, what did you know going into this film about AI? And then what did you learn coming out of this film about AI? Good, bad, ugly, all of it.
Going into this film, I really did not understand how what had been a language model, neural nets, these systems which didn't really produce any meaning, were kind of out of fashion, all of a sudden were creating paragraphs of text. And that was, the ChatGPT moment. And that was sort of like, okay, that obviously has implications for teachers and students. And, I kind of just kept living my life, and I have young children. I kind of overlooked that. But it was actually when I was invited to participate in an artists group for a large AI company that I...
Sorry, my eyebrows went from like up here and then just settled down. Sorry. Yes.
Invited to participate and experiment with their new technology, which was a video generator. And I was kind of amazed. I was, oh my God, you can type in Alpine sunrise, and there you have, an Alpine sunrise. But also if you type in other things like janitor or CEO or woman, then other images come. And at that point, I was really taken aback by the obvious and horrific racial and gender biases in this outputs from large language models in the form of video and images. And in my experience dealing with said big tech company, I was further dismayed by the total lack of accountability and lack of curiosity around this. And to me, the gap between the rhetoric around this generative AI technology being a tool for filmmakers that will democratize access to, I know you're like grimacing, and then the reality of this technology, which is we see even now a year later, non-consensual porn. Along with highly problematic racialized stereotypes of every kind in these images. And so what made me concerned was that nobody was talking about that, and that there was this kind of attitude of, well, the engineers don't really want to engage in that, and there's really nothing we can do. And it was very unfashionable to bring these ideas up. And so
you're hindering them in some way.
100%. And so then I thought, okay, this is a bit wild. And I just started Googling around and finding white papers of people talking about data sets. Like, how does a data set function? Like, I kind of thought, like, I loved the idea of the technology so much. I was like, oh, we just need to fix it. We just need to go in and fix the gender imbalance. Like, it's not making a woman CEO, but maybe we just need to fix the data set. But it's not that simple at all. These are, highly complex systems, but not highly sophisticated systems. So there's no tuning the outputs. This is rubbish technology to the core, these large language models. And that is something that kind of became very clear in starting to research the work of Abeba Burhani, who's in our film was the first person I came across, and she has this amazing white paper called multimodal data sets, porn and misogyny, and I know, and I was like, this sounds
yes.
Yeah, and so I reached out to her, and then there's an amazing seminal paper called Stochastic Parrots that one of the authors, Emily M. Bender, is in our film, and I reached out to her, and I just started to collect these different pieces of research, and it was very organic, and it was really wonderful how in the end, I talked to something like 40 experts, and they're all telling the same story. And I think that's what really surprised me once I put it all together as a film, is that there's this other story about this technology. That's not the story that big tech tells, and it's not the story that big tech is comfortable with. And that has been super fascinating. One of the things I didn't know was the origins of the term artificial intelligence are quite recent. And when we start to pull on that thread a little bit, out comes this truckload of misogyny, which I touch on in the film. I feel like I scratch the surface, and we could go so much deeper into each moment. But the origins of that term were an attempt to raise philanthropic funding for certain kinds of mathematical research. And John McCarthy is the character who kind of coins this term as a sort of flashy, sexy term that he can raise money, underneath. And always the project in his mind was to create human level intelligence. And it's super laughable that computers can produce human type intelligence. Like, it's hilarious. But rather than these computer systems actually producing human intelligence, we have reimagined human intelligence to be something a computer can produce. And we also kind of trace that in the film. And that's where the title comes from. Ghost in the Machine was this gentleman called Gilbert Ryle, who kind of created this rift in philosophy by saying, the Descartes and this whole idea of Cartesian dualism, which is you have a body and it's animated externally by a soul, and that's human cognition, and that's who we are. There's obviously a lot of problems around that. You have the political apparatus of the church that intervening on what a soul is. I mean, there's, nothing is clean, but by reducing human activity to this output that's a response to, the biological construction of your body, then he says, imbeciles don't have the same quality of mind. Women don't have the same quality of mind. If somebody is disabled physically, or that they're not, don't have the same quality of mind. And so we get into this really creepy hierarchy of human thinking, which also has a huge lineage in artificial intelligence. There's so many ways to talk about this. I'm not sure if I'm just where to leap in with the film, but I think that the main kind of surprise to me in answer to your question was that machines cannot think. And this is a highly charged, highly political lie that we're being fed, and it's being propagated on every level of technology, and watching the narrative myth making around that is wild. And unfortunately, what happens when we, have this banner of artificial intelligence, artificial superintelligence, and this concept that these systems are going to replace machines and they're doing machine-like thinking, is then all manner of deregulation and power consolidation and extraction and control occur. And that's really what this story is about. And that's, that is what AI is.
Can I bring up one thing when you say that? So we had this huge power outage in San Francisco. I don't know if you saw that news, right? So what happened to the robots that drive us around? They stalled the fuck out. And everyone...
And they made the streets more dangerous because they were just in the middle of the streets, like dummies, like rocks, like big
5-ton rocks, and all in a row. And it's like...
That's human intelligence, actually. Yeah. Hey, they were right, Valerie.
Yeah. But just to your point of... It's not, we're being sold something. And I mean, we've taken part in Waymos, and now after PG&E especially, I'm like, nah, deleted the app, I'm good. I don't need that. And we've been sold something heavily, every day, just sold that this is the way, and it's great, and it's relaxing. You don't have to think about anything. And I'm like, well, that's the problem.
They want us to be numb and dumb so they can continue to take over, while we're just like, ooh, look at the shiny thing.
I mean, that the frictionless experience that these technologies create are seductive. They are wonderful in some ways, but I love this idea of friction maxing. Have you heard that?
No, but it sounds
titillating. It's a little bit sexy.
Maybe I think I'm gonna do some tonight.
So
we're sharing a bed. I won't be friction maxing.
So if you want to splice in after this, you could be like, oh, that person who says this, because it's, if you Google, this wonderful woman just wrote an article for The Cut, and the idea is, rather than leaning into this frictionless big tech experience, to actually find ways to reclaim our humanity back by doing things that create friction, by walking down the... I mean, I don't know.
By writing,
you're friction maxing by writing handwritten notes there. Look at that.
You're so angry. Also, it's about your movie. Yes.
All caps. I see a lot of all caps over there.
Amazing. I love to wonder what this.
So we've already mentioned that we're from San Francisco. We're from the Bay Area, and even before, when I first moved there in '99, but I never felt like, I always felt weird about Silicon Valley and just that area and technology in general. It's not just now that I'm old and grumpy. It always felt weird. And your film does such a good job of breaking down why the fuck that is. That's meant to be. I feel like everybody should watch this film, but especially people from the Bay Area. So can you touch on, while you were digging, just this history of Silicon Valley and what it means?
Absolutely. And actually there's a wonderful book called Palo Alto that goes into this a lot more. I mean, there's so many layers to why it's so weird. I mean, one layer that I don't touch on in the film, but we can all agree with, is this kind of idea that we see becoming repopularized, which is the kind of new frontier attitude of American expansionism. And so when you start there with that, area, then we have that first layer of capture and erasure. And then we have the character William Shockley in our film, who I won't spoil it by giving any more information than that, but he's somebody who grew up in the Bay Area, and after his service in the war, he came back and created a technology company that then spawned a lot of other technology companies, creating the semiconductor and microchips. And we don't talk about it in the film at all, but there's also a legacy of land poisoning and environmental degradation that's a direct result of this enterprise being the industry in Silicon Valley.
East Palo Alto.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so there's a toxicity there that is deep and rich. And it's no surprise then that these technologies undress women non-consensually. Right. Or are being, they're being used to muddy information to the extent that
disrupting. They're disrupting.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So yeah, it's, how to close that thought out is it's,
fuck them.
Yeah. There. Yeah. It is no surprise when you look at the context of the space that this is a mechanism for value extraction.
The hero worship. Is so fucking annoying. Living in San Francisco is very trying times for us.
How are you doing it?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
But we still love it. And
doing this.
Yeah. And there's so many pockets of fucking amazing.
Yeah. Yes,
San Francisco's still beautiful and amazing, but we have to stay there to counter this because it's just.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this film is definitely an invitation to counter that narrative.
100%.
And I think it's so important that everybody feels the freedom and the confidence to push back against what is increasingly clear a monstrous lie we've been sold. I mean, if you think back to perhaps 2007, being able to democratize media publishing, that's kind of cool, being able to connect the world and create solidarity through these platforms like Facebook, that's kind of cool. But what we've seen, the reality is it was this, large scale data extraction enterprise, and these tools have only been used to create division and misinformation and erode our ability to create solidarity as a society. And that is having huge impact. That is having a huge impact on our democracy, as we're seeing. So the AI, so-called AI, is just the culmination of a lot of forces that have been occurring in the technological space for, at least the last 30 years, if not longer. And I think I don't have answers in this film. I'm not saying delete your social media and you'll be happy, and you will be happier. We know that for other reasons, right? But I think the first layer is just to be okay with saying not AI. Nobody asked for this. I don't want it. And it's okay to just refuse these sort of frictionless integration of this shit into our lives.
Well, we've never been asked. That's all. My husband and I talk about this on the daily basis. Can we just opt out? There's no option. No, I always type in negative AI before I Google anything.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's a pain in the ass. You have to remember it. But yeah, every time you Google, just negative
Oh, that's
AI.
how you get it to turn off the Gemini. Well, thank you. I'm going to tell people this. I did not know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you need to redo your documentary.
I know.
Now, Valerie. You should include that.
I
you
will.
really should.
Maybe just put it at the end credits, right at the end. Okay, so you heard earlier we do a little thing called This Bitch at the end. So you can shine a light. You can shine some shade on someone or something. Who's your This Bitch right now?
This bitch is the integration of generative AI into every single digital tool for creators. And only tools use AI tools to create.
That was perfect. I do want to end it by also saying you are a mother, and we were talking about raising kids in this society, and you know more than most parents how disruptive and toxic it is. Do you have some advice for parents before we leave?
Yeah, feel free to reject screen time, full stop. Reject AI. talk to your kids about what AI is. AI is the algorithmic processing of data using huge amounts of compute that are environmentally harmful in every community that these hyperscale data centers pop up in. The real thought crime of the century is that, my daughter's young classmates are telling her that they don't need to study, they don't need to learn anything because AI is just going to do it. These are 6-year-old boys, right?
Unpack that part too.
So that
They're
is
boys.
Well, so it. Yeah. I mean, what is that telling, or a girl, but like, what is that telling people about their role to be able to create and build and have agency? And that is actually the thought crime, because I don't know how they're getting that idea. And my daughter can, of course, push back on that how she knows how. But it's like, that is a subtle and horrible violation. And that's why I made this film, because the idea that machines can think or can produce value as a human can is a lie. And it's a really harmful lie. And I'm so excited to share this film at the festival, because I'm hoping that screenwriters and other filmmakers and producers and all of us can sort of start to, in our own way, produce another narrative.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Again, we've been speaking with director Valerie Veach of the documentary Ghost in the Machine. Congratulations, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for watching the film. I love it.
This episode was supported by Lauren Lim, who'd like to give a shout out to the SFSPCA.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. You can find more information about this episode in our show notes.
If you're missing us, you can visit us at bitchtalkpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter and buy us a cup of coffee.
Did you know we're also on the radio? You can find us at bff.fm.
And lastly, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All the cool bitches are doing it.